So my name is Kirsten and I'm 31 years old. I come from a family of 4 children and I have a very loving and supportive family. We're all based in Hobart and I grew up here. For the last few years I've been working in foreign aid, which has been absolutely fantastic. I have been so fortunate with the roles that I've had. I've been able to travel to developing countries and work with really small grassroots organisations. At the start of 2015, I came back to Australia for a break. I was within 2 or 3 weeks of leaving again for another role. So I'd packed up my house, I'd left my job here, and I was getting my pre-departure medical check done. And I mentioned to my doctor that I'd had some worrying symptoms while I was away last, and he suggested that we get those followed up. So when I saw the specialist, he didn't think it would be anything major because I was young, I was fit, I was healthy, I'd had a great lifestyle, didn't smoke, I'd been very careful with alcohol, didn't take drugs, and I had no family history of anything particularly worrying. However, when I woke up from the colonoscopy, I was told that I had cancer, and that changed my life. For the first few weeks after my diagnosis, my life was a bit of a roller coaster of emotions. Everything stopped. I had to give up my job overseas. I was homeless. I had already packed up my house, as I mentioned. So I moved in with my mother and spent the first few weeks going from doctor surgery to doctor surgery with all the specialist appointments and medical appointments and scans and additional colonoscopies to form a full diagnosis. After all of the initial medical investigations, I was diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer. And this was quite surprising to me because I had no idea that there was cancer in my body. Apart from the minor symptoms that I'd experienced overseas, I was still very fit and healthy, and I just did not expect to have such a large tumour in my body. I certainly had the impression that bowel cancer was something that only affected older people. We have a bowel screening program in Australia recommended for people over the age of 50, and so I certainly didn't think that bowel cancer would be something that would affect somebody so young. And it was, my diagnosis that taught me that unfortunately cancer doesn't discriminate. In terms of treatment, it's been a very long year for me so far. I've had 3 major surgeries, 1 minor surgery, and I underwent 6 weeks of chemo and radiation before the surgeries. And now post-surgery, I'm on a 6-month regimen of intravenous chemo through a port in my chest. It's been a really long struggle with this treatment because a lot of the time it's painful. I'm left with crippling fatigue. The side effects of the chemo are pretty devastating. One of the major ones is peripheral neuropathy, so my hands and feet are permanently tingly from nerve damage now caused by the chemo. And I can't go near anything cold while I'm having treatment because of those symptoms. And as I say, the fatigue is it's soul crushing at times. I've also had a lot of nausea from my treatment, which is managed pretty well with anti-nausea medication, but can be a little bit of a showstopper for me at times. It does affect my day-to-day living. I've been very lucky though not to lose my hair through treatment. It has thinned out quite considerably, but by keeping it short, it's hard to notice. And I think that makes a big difference in the way that I feel about myself because a lot of people associate the loss of hair with somebody that has cancer, and because I haven't lost my hair, I don't necessarily look like a sick person. One of the hardest things about the treatments that I've undergone so far is the not knowing what the end point was going to be. Initially, I was told it would be about 6 months of the various treatments, and by the time I got to the end of that 6 months, I found out it was going to be another 6 months with the additional chemotherapy at the end. And I found this really devastating because I felt like I was running a marathon and I'd put everything into getting to the end of that first 6 months and thought I could see the finishing line in front of me, only to be told that that finishing line was on the other side of a really big hill that I now had to get across before I was at the end of my journey. And it's really hard when you're going through these treatments to keep going, because you're pouring everything into getting through, only, to have to keep digging deeper each day to go back for more. As a young person, the impact of cancer for me has been catastrophic. My entire life has been put on hold. I was a young person traveling overseas with a zest for life, living the good life, and all of a sudden I found myself jobless and homeless and sick with a major illness and grounded, and it's the grounding part for me that's been really hard. I haven't been able to work during my treatment, but also the treatment has affected my social relationships. So one of the biggest impacts there is my partner has been working overseas during this time. We were due to live together, and we chose for him to continue to work overseas while I've been here. And that's been really hard, being separated, although he still provides amazing support. I've also had some great support from my family and friends. They've been really great through this process. But I think pretty early on I recognised that the support that I was getting from them wasn't going to be enough for me. And so one of the first things I did was to seek out a psychologist to help discuss the process and the emotions and feelings that went with having cancer. There's only so much that you can talk to your family and friends about. They don't want to talk about some of the really bad things, though, because they're gunning for you. They want you to be positive, and they want you to beat the cancer and to get through your treatment in one piece. And it can be really hard to have conversations about preparing yourself for the possibility of death and facing your own mortality with your family and friends that are trying to stay positive for you. So that was a really important step for me. In addition to a psychologist, I also sought out some support groups. So the Cancer Council Tasmania has been really great in providing avenues for that support through face-to-face support groups and art therapy classes, which I've been doing. And that's been really great for me to be able to explore some of those, both the dark side and the bad emotions, as well as the celebrating the positive things that have happened along the way. I've also enjoyed talking to people through online support groups as well. They're a wealth of knowledge and experience, and it's a great way to connect you with other people going through the same thing all over the country. The cancer will have long-term impacts on me as well as the acute impacts from treatment. So one of the things that I'm suffering from at the moment is what they call chemo brain. To me, it feels like trying to think through fog sometimes, and I'm very forgetful. General, I don't know what I was going to say. I've forgotten. I often forget where I put things, and most of the time I will forget conversations that I've had with people and need reminding. And, that can be really tricky in terms of getting through your day-to-day when you have such significant memory problems. The other long-term effects include impacts to my fertility, and that's a big one for me. I'm young and I was in a committed relationship, and there was the possibility of having children in the future for us, but unfortunately now that's not really an opportunity for me because of the impacts of the surgery and the radiation on my internal organs. And also now the chemo may have affected the function of my ovaries as well. There have been a couple of really important lessons that I've learned this year through having cancer. One of them is the importance of staying positive. So, I'm inherently positive that things are going to be okay and that they'll work out okay for me. But I do find it a little bit annoying when people say to me sometimes, for lack of knowing what to say, you've just got to stay positive. As I say, I'm inherently positive, but unfortunately that doesn't really allow me the opportunity to offload about what I might be going through, or to feel bad about having cancer generally. Another really important lesson that I've learned is the importance of talking about cancer. I think we should be talking more about cancer to make it less of a taboo topic. When I first was diagnosed with bowel cancer, I actually felt ashamed of having cancer in my bowels. It's not really something that we talk about in our everyday discussions. But I have certainly found with my family and friends that the more we talk about having cancer and getting these strange symptoms checked, the less taboo it seems and the more natural it becomes. And it does demystify, having cancer. A couple of messages I'd like to get across to other young people out there. One of them is the importance of knowing your body. Young people do tend to take note of the changes that happen in their body. And I think it's really important that if you are suffering from any strange symptoms, that it's really important to go to the doctor and get those checked out. It takes a lot to get a young person to the doctor, so it's really important that you get your doctor to take those symptoms very seriously. It's important to me to try and be as normal as possible, even though I have cancer and that's had such a big impact on my life. So one of the best things for me is to try and get out and go for a cup of coffee or have lunch with friends, or come to the park and walk my dog. He needs to be walked every day. Life doesn't stop just because I have cancer. And it really helps improve my mood as well to be able to get out and feel like I'm as normal as possible. I'm a creature of spirit and resilience and determination. I won't let cancer stop me from doing anything that I want to do in life. So whilst I can't go to the gym anymore, I can take the dog for a walk in the park, and I can't work, but I can generate income by making cards. So I won't stop cancer from letting me do those things. It's so easy to say that you can't be bothered when you're undergoing this kind of treatment, or that you're really fatigued and you don't want to get out of bed, but it's so important to make that effort. People tell me that I'm brave, but bravery has nothing to do with it, because the only alternative is to sit in the corner and give up, so I don't really have a choice. The chemo that I'm receiving is saving my life. Cancer might dominate our lives, but it doesn't need to define it. We can be so much more than that. I'm really lucky in that things are looking positive for me. I'm due to finish my treatment shortly, and if I get clear scans at the end of all of this, then hopefully that means that I'll be in remission. And that is such a wonderful feeling after such a long, hard year of treatment. And it's really taught me to live in the present and to appreciate life and to not let cancer hold me back. I have a whole life out there yet to live, and I'm really looking forward to getting back to it.